What's up, everybody? How's it going? Here today to talk to you about the reading Styling Masculinity by Kristen Barber. One of my all-time current all-time favorites, one of my favorite studies done on gender, consumer culture, and we're talking about what are we talking about? Where are we? Yeah. So we're talking about diversity as it kind of relates to the fashion industry. So more of like a cultural account to diversity with a focus on gender, a little bit of class, and a little bit of race in there too. Okay. So Kristen Barber, she is a sociologist. She was at Southern Illinois, and now I don't know. I think she works somewhere else. Anyway, friend of mine had a chance to review this or critique this years back in front of her, and an audience watched, and it was an awesome experience. Anyway, love engaging with this book. I do teach it in some of my other classes too. But yeah, she's super cool, really cool scholar, cultural accounts of gender. All right. So the main idea here is she goes through and she does a bunch of work on using this data on this kind of thing. And so I'm pretty sure I remember this book specifically, but she's really interested in, or with this project that she's been working on, she's interested in the male beauty industry, or the men's beauty industry, or however she phrases it, right? And with her work, she's done more of like an ethnographic or observational study, which takes a long time, over the course of a couple years, I believe. And she went to two, if not three, beauty salons in California, I want to say, which would make sense because she did her dissertation in California, one of the UC schools. But in any event, she goes to these beauty salons that are directly serve male customers, or customers who are men, and she kind of investigates this idea of like, how do men keep their masculinity while performing and engaging with these kind of beauty practices that are typically associated with femininity, like hair dye, nails being done, facials, and all that kind of stuff. Like, so her question, like her research question, is like, how do men keep their masculinity, if you will, right, while engaging with these things that are typically considered feminine, right? Wacky study, but it tells us, in my opinion, tells us a lot about gender. These cultural accounts of gender and gender diversity tell us about gender in like really kind of playful ways. The study is rooted in the idea, or excuse me, in the theory of doing gender. So she brings up at some point, I think I just had you all read the introduction in like, I think chapter 3, the color camo. Oh, chapter 2, was it? I don't know. You read 2 of these chapters. Other classes read other types of chapters, but I believe it was 2 chapters intro, and then maybe it was chapter 2 on the rocks, glasses, and color camo. So along the way in there somewhere, in the introduction, I believe it is, she brings up Doing Gender by Weston Zimmerman, okay? And so this idea of doing gender, right, is an argument, so everybody take it easy. It's just one way of thinking about things. We can have many ways of thinking about one thing. It's okay, all right? Doing gender posits that instead of thinking of gender as purely essential, right, as something that that exudes out of our physicality, right, instead of thinking about it as only that, how can we think about gender as an accomplishment? Not just something that we are doing, okay? Remember, in sociology, we're not looking at the individual, but how in society is gender being constructed in ways, right, that affect people's behavior and what they do, okay? So gender as a social construction is kind of where she's inquiring. Where is that happening? Where is it happening? And that's what she's doing here, right? So again, this only works when you're thinking about it macro. not as individuals, but where in society are we being kind of, or is gender being accomplished around certain expectations of behaviors, about around certain, I don't know, norms and values that we place on people's bodies and whatnot. Okay, so it's studied in doing gender, and she's saying here, right, that men are doing gender in ways that instead of challenging their masculinity by engaging in beauty processes, it actually is doing beauty practices are done in ways that reinforce their masculinity, right? And that's by things like calling things, instead of hair dye or whatever, or getting their roots done, it's called like color camo, and like, I don't know, like I always remember, like the types of beverages they give their clients in these not barbershops, but beauty salons for men. They give them Pabst Blue Ribbon beer or different things like that. There's always sports on the TV, right? And so their gender is being reinforced, and so is their class and race is brought up in here too, right? Like a white middle class to upper classness is being reinforced through these practices, and that is a way of kind of gender being done, kind of happening around us all the time, right? So yes, okay, we have sexualities, right? We have biologies. That's a thing. Biology does stuff. Okay, we understand that, but that's not all the picture. We're also surrounded by ideals and norms and values and all that kind of stuff surrounding gender at any given moment of our social lives. At least that's what Kristen Barber is arguing. So the second thing is a kind of important little twist in this book too that I like to kind of think on, is that not only is gender being done and accomplished in these settings through the way they call stuff, the aesthetics, and things like that, right? But this kind of masculinity, this like middle to upper white masculinity, she argues, is mostly hinged upon women working for them. So these men go to these salons and they interact with women who are the workers at these salons, right? Talk to them, do their hairs, right? Massages, all that kind of stuff. So not only again is masculinity being kind of reinforced through the products and the practice and stuff like that, but also in this kind of this weird way of women are working for these men, and that's kind of solidifies this accomplishment of a white middle class masculinity. Just initial thoughts on this book. I again love the book because it gets me to think about different things, right? Here's a critique though, hey, these are just arguments, people. These are just arguments. This isn't the word, It's one way of looking at things. So they all have critiques. My critique was, and still is, okay? This really only works on the macro, okay? So we look at, I don't know, gender representations like this, or this specific account of men going to beauty salons. It only works when we're like kind of back, looking at it from a broad lens. These are happening. Doing gender and gender as social construction, which I always love those arguments. A lot of times they don't always take into account multiple reasons why people do things on the individual level, right? So yeah, like maybe I wear this shirt because it's got a collar, it makes me look a little manly or whatever. Sure, we can see that maybe from a distance, but up close, I wore this shirt for a lot of reasons. It was my only clean one at home today. My mom gave it to me. I don't know. My kids said, "Oh, that looks good on you." I don't know. So it's not, the reason why people do things aren't always centered around gender necessarily when we look at it individually. However, when we look at macro, broader scale, I think she's onto something. And I think Wes and Zimmerman are onto something, and other social constructionists when they're talking about gender. Okay, so here's my discussion question for you. This is what I want you to think about. And this is what I want you to respond with in your reaction for this week. Haven't thought of it yet. probably should have thought of it before I pressed the record button here. Where's some, like, so, okay, so where is a possible space in your life, something that you do, an activity you're a part of, a group, a club, something that you do, what is something that you do where you think, like Kristen Barber's account, gender is being kind of constructed or accomplished or reinforced in certain ways? Are you on a sports team? Are you, I don't know, do you do some kind of activity outside of school or something like that? Give me an example. And give me a specific example too, if you can. All right? Good to see y'all, or something like that. Talk to you soon. Bye.